we are talking about how reading provides a little capsule of all of these different hundreds of different sources combined together, and it can give you a little capsule of this knowledge that you wouldn't have otherwise. So recently, a book that I've been reading, and I have not even gotten into the first 5 chapters really, but recently a book that I've been reading is The Secrets of Anti-Gravity Propulsion, Tesla, UFOs, and Classified Aerospace Technology. So one thing about the Rational Male is it tackles a subject, intergender dynamics, and it gives a completely different new perspective to us. It delivers us with this knowledge, a new perspective, a new way of thinking of something that we're already familiar with. And this goes back to letting go and forging a new path and embracing that new path. So this anti-gravity book is having the same effect, I believe, in another aspect of life, in another area of life. And I think that when the man gets ready to recreate himself, like you talk about, in one of the most basic, simple terms, he gets his old clothes and he throws those out and brings in new clothes that he's selected for himself. Okay, so I believe that when a man is examining his life in this way, he realizes at different times in his life that, okay, I realize that there's something off about intergender dynamics that I've been believing all my life. And then he starts focusing on that. He starts recreating that. He starts changing that. He starts seeking out books that's going to help him restructure that aspect of his life. Then he realizes, oh, well, if I was so wrong about this area of my life, I could be completely off about this other aspect of life. Then he starts going out and getting books about that. He starts recreating this area of his life. And he just starts systematically destructuring everything, unlearning what he's been taught, what he's been conditioned to believe all of his life, and rebuilding and recreating that.
Right, and I feel like in today's society, there is so much dogma in the secular world. And they would never think of themselves in this way, right? They would never think of themselves as uh, religiously adhering to specific ways that things have to be that way. And you see it in all these different movements or all these different hashtag movements out there that are coming up. But like Jonathan's saying, is that one of the fire starters of recreating yourself is realizing that you need to kind of create a sort of blank slate for yourself and find things that are going to motivate you and work for you, things that maybe challenge your belief system, tear it down and put back something that really makes sense for you, right? If it means maybe challenging the way things have always been done that people have told you, and you see that, hey, wait a minute, not everybody does it this way, and look at the results they've gotten, right?
Right.
So, Jonathan is finding inspiration here from this book, and it's changing the way he's seen, like what? Give us an example.
Okay, I'm going to give you an example of this.
Okay.
So, before I give this example, I want to tell you the importance of this principle. And this is the importance of being able to really listen to something without blocking it out, without automatically rejecting it, without shooting it down, without putting some label, projecting some label that society's projected on you to label that as. So in other words, you don't ever get to listen to the idea or the concept fully, or even you don't ever even get to really absorb it at all because you're too busy putting that label on it or shutting it down or rejecting it before, and so it never gives you a chance to learn.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Or at least hear a different perspective. At the very minimum, you could at least gain a different perspective or see, oh, that's how they see it.
Right. So, an example from this book, and like I said, I haven't read much into it yet, but a motor that is powered by gravity. The motor turns in free fall, and it's based on the gravitational force. Just like you could theoretically drop an object and it could free fall until for as long as it can until it hits the object.
Right.
So just like you can have a free fall, you could have this motor that's powered by a gravitational force, and it perpetually goes on and on and on. And as it goes, it creates this electrical generator type of
Right.
effect that is also going to add to that energy that you have from the motor.
Right. I forget what it's called. A perpetual something engine.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's talking about this in regards to traveling at the speed of light, to space travel, things like that. You have a gravitational pull. Let's say I'm here and I can project this gravitational field, this gravitational pull towards something and pull myself towards that. And as I'm pulling myself, I can generate electrical power. And then once I get close enough to that, I can block that out and then pull myself onto the next star.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's not a star in between, if there's not a star close enough, let's say I can take that electrical generated power that I've produced and propel myself far enough to grab hold of the next object.
Right.
Okay, so a lot of people hearing this will probably think this is crazy talk. And it doesn't help any that I'm not anywhere close to being an expert on this.
Right.
Okay, so I mean, I'm not pretending to be any kind of expert in that at all. But it doesn't matter if I'm an expert or not, because what matters is your ability to hear that and actually hear and actually listen to the idea, to the concept that I'm telling you, and not judge that based on me or my presentation of that, or if you think that's crazy or if you think that's kooky or not based on the image that you have of me. It doesn't
Right.
have, my image or my effectiveness, my charisma doesn't have anything to do with whether or not that is a true, valid point or not.
Right. And what's important is that Jonathan's saying you're not just shutting it down because it's not something that falls into your immediate paradigm of reality or the way things work.
Right.
And this is essential for growth.
And there's different areas. This is what we're talking about. There's different aspects of life like this. Okay, so another example of this is Bitcoin. It's a completely different way. It's a completely different financial system. And everybody, for the most part, the media has been just completely bashing Bitcoin in the past. They've always brought up about how it's used for criminal activity. Well, what about the dollar? What about the U.S. dollar being used for criminal activity? Do they ever talk about the dollar being used for criminal activity? No, it's because they have this. It's because people have this desire to. They want to shut somebody down, or they want to make somebody appear to be foolish, and maybe somehow that makes them feel better about themselves.
Yeah. Right.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
And then, well, there's many different things about the Bitcoin thing, and that goes back to the people in power. Of course, they always want to keep their power. They want to retain their power.
But what's relevant to you is that it's important not to just shut down an idea because it's not what you're used to. If you're going to move from where you are right now, so say you're unhappy where you are right now, okay? Or you have this vision of the man you want to become, and you know that you're not there, you're not that person, right? Then guess what? Whatever you've been doing is not the way. So how do you find a new way?
How you find a new way is, first, you have to have a desire for a new way. You have to have an acknowledgement that a new way is necessary.
That is necessary, yeah.
And you have to bring yourself to a point of humility where you can accept the fact that you need to be open to other people presenting information to you, and not just open to that, but actually seriously consider what they can bring to the table.
Right. And you might be able to use that. And it's finding those useful nuggets of information that you can pull in for your benefit. That's important. And if you just shut people down or you shut ideas down before you get a chance to let it simmer on your mind, before your brain can hear the ideas that are being presented to you,
And research.
then you are blocking important gateways and avenues to your success.
And the next thing is you have to actively go out and seek that information for yourself, because those things are not going to be presented to you automatically.
Right. And this goes to what
When
we talk
you're-
about, the work ethic.
When you are going down the road and you turn on the radio, that type of information is not going to be presented to you. You know, when you turn on your television and you've come home from work and you want to be entertained, that type of information is not going to magically present itself to you. It's information that you have to, first of all, you have to acknowledge that a change is needed. You have to desire it. You have to humble yourself, and you have to go out and seek that information. And then the last thing is you have to do application of that.
Right, right. And like we tell you so many times on Talk Tactic, you have to be bold in your pursuits, right? You have to make a choice to seek out the information, and you have to have the work ethic to do the research and the reading and the gathering of the information. It's just fundamental towards progress and change that is going to be a catalyst for a whole new life for yourself.
So this wraps up our video about reading this specific book. And I hope, and we hope here, that our audience will not just seek out one aspect of their life, or not just seek out a couple different aspects, but we want you to fully examine your whole life and recreate that from the bottom up and to your benefit. So again, if you guys are reading some great books right now, make sure you comment below and let us know what those books are. And if you've got a book that you want us to check out and do some topics about, make sure you leave that as well. Help us get to our first 100 subscribers. Thanks.